Soon the World Tour will recommence with the last two Super 1000 tournaments of the 2020 calendar being staged here in Bangkok. They are also the last two mandatory qualifying tournaments for the HSBC BWF World Tour Finals, the season-ending finale that is to be staged immediately following the conclusion of the Yonex Thailand Open and the Toyota Thailand Open at the exact same venue here in Impact Arena. The players are at the moment still quarantining in their hotel rooms, but unfortunately several of the world's top-rated badminton celebrities are absent from these two tournaments. That, on the other hand, opens up opportunities for other players. Find out who's in and who's out, and find out who's in contention to qualify for the HSBC BWF World Tour Finals, the lucrative season-ending finale. The two biggest stars in world badminton, Kento Momota in the men's single and Kevin Sukamuljo alongside Marcus Gideon in men's doubles, well, they're out of the first two tournaments here in Bangkok, and thus also out of the World Tour Finals. They simply can't qualify for the World Tour Finals. The Chinese team, they withdrew before the draw was made for Yonex Thailand Open and Toyota Thailand Open, so that was known, but it was a little bit of a shock that the Japanese team had to withdraw all their players after Kento Momota, unfortunately, was tested positive for coronavirus in Tokyo airport. That, as I mentioned, provides opportunities for other players in the draw that perhaps didn't expect to qualify. Now they have a chance of reaching the World Tour Finals. Now let's take a look at the World Tour standing ranking list, the list that decides which 8 players or pairs that will qualify for the World Tour Finals. One thing worth noticing is that only 2 players or pairs from the same country can qualify for the World Finals. That's why, as you can see to the right here, Rasmus Gemke from Denmark, who is currently 3rd on the World Tour standings, he's not qualified as his 2 compatriots, Victor Axelsen and Anders Antonsen, is ahead of him. He still can qualify, but that needs him to overtake one of his 2 fellow Danes. We can see Kenta Nishimoto. He was in a good spot before the Japanese team had to withdraw. He would have qualified, or he was in a position to qualify alongside Shi Yuqi, the Chinese top men's single player. Jano Jorgensen, who's retired, was in with a chance, but of course he's not here. Chen Long was not entered into the tournament in the first place, and actually Kento Momota would have had a really tough time qualifying, even if he'd played these 2 tournaments in Bangkok, the 2 Super 1000 tournaments. He simply hasn't played enough following his accident after his win in Malaysia last year at this time. On the world ranking list, we can see that Lee Si-jia and the 3-time world junior champion Kunlavut Wittitsan, they have benefited immediately and moved into the spots that will give them a qualifying spot for the World Tour Finals. But the players that I've highlighted in red are the ones that I think are battling it out for the 4 spots in the finals. Wang Zuwei and Chou Tianqian from Chinese Taipei in number 4 and 5, they're going to be difficult to catch. There's an Indonesian wolf pack with Rustavito Ginting and Jonathan Christie hunting for qualification for the World Tour Finals, but remember, only 2 of those 3 players can qualify. In the women's singles, I've highlighted as much as 7 players that would have been in contention for spots in the World Tour Finals that are unfortunately out of the tournament. That also goes for the winner of the last Super 1000 tournament staged back in Denmark in October, Nozomi Okuhara. To the right, you can see here that Carolina Marin has taken a severe lead, and she's absolutely certain of qualifying for the World Tour Finals. Internan, Chuchu Wong, An Se-young, and Tai Ying, they're not entirely sure of qualifying, but in my opinion, they have built themselves a strong position to go into the finals. The ones that have benefited is Kosetskaya, Eugenia Kosetskaya, Line Kjærsfeldt, and Saina Neval. Kjærsfeldt and Neval moving up from 16th and 17th on this ranking list, and now strongly in contention for spots in the lucrative finals. Also, PV Sindhu has moved up and is not far from being able to reach a qualifying spot. She could go into a fierce fight with Saina Neval for the chance to play 3 tournaments instead of only 2. Then on to men's doubles, where the most notable absentees are, of course, Kevin Sukamuljo and Marcus Gideon. They were number 3 in the standings, and I didn't have the imagination of seeing that they shouldn't qualify. Li Junhui, Liu Chen, and the 2 Japanese pairs, they were actually quite far behind in the standings, and it was doubtful whether they would be able to qualify. A lot of Asian players refrained from participating in the Denmark Open, and that of course hurt them in terms of qualifying through this World Tour ranking list. To the right, you can see that Ivanov and Sosunov and Li Yang and Wang Qilin, they have put themselves in a really, really good position. But apart from that, there's a lot of spots that are up for grabs. England could qualify 2 pairs for the World Tour Finals, and there could be strong European representation. But on the other hand, it's some very, very capable combinations. Kim Gi-jung, Lee Yong-dae, and Fayal Alfian, and Rian Adianto, Choi Soo-ju, and So Sung-jae that are chasing them. I haven't highlighted Asan and Hendra Sechevan in red because I simply can't imagine that they're not qualifying for the World Tour Finals. So I have a feeling that they are going to step up their game, and they have a habit of whenever Sukamuljo and Gideon are not there, they're going to win the tournament. So that might be a good tip for a tournament winner of the World Tour Finals. So on to women's doubles, which is a category that has for many years been dominated by Chinese combinations, Japanese combination, Korean players, and of course it's hurt the draw a lot that both the Japanese pairs and Chen Qingchen and Jia Yifan are out of the tournament. Du Yue and Li Yinghui, they were not entered into the tournament in the first place, and the same goes for the Bulgarian sisters, Gabriela and Stephanie Stoyeva. To the right, you can see that it's the pairs that were placed in 16th, 17th, and 18th spot that has immediately benefited from the withdrawals. Hertwig and Effler could qualify as, I guess, the first German women's doubles pair for a very long time. They look to have a nice lead, and it's, on the other hand, really, really tight between the 5 pairs that is highlighted in red. The home nation, Thailand, could also qualify 2 pairs if Supajirakul and Tirachanachai, if they can join Kitiharakun and Prajongjai in top 8. Finally, to the mixed double, where I've highlighted 3 pairs that are not here. Jiang Siwei, Huang Yachong, and Wang Yilu and Huang Dongping, of course, withdrew before the draw was made, and after it was made, the married couple, Chris and Gabby Adcock, also had to withdraw due to Gabby Adcock still not recovered from coronavirus. There's another notable absentee, actually, that is the former All England champions Yuta Watanabe and Arisa Higashino, who also had to turn around in Tokyo Airport after Kento Momota tested positive. Ellis and Smith and Lamsfus and Hertrich, they seem on a steady course for the World Tour finals. I think actually Ellis and Smith are mathematically safe. They already know that they're going to play 3 tournaments. But Lamsfus and Hertrich really took advantage of their win in the Denmark Open in October last year. Tom Gikel and Delphine Delaret, they've not participated in Denmark Open, so their points are all earned in tournaments before the world lockdown after the All England last March. 5 pairs in red in the current top 8 and 3 challenges, and there's a lot of talent in the challenges. You'd have to say Jordan and Octavianti, the All England champions and home favourites, Puravaranukroh and Terachanachai. They're strong contenders. It's going to be a fierce battle in the mixed doubles, where there's only 4,000 points dividing these 8 couples. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see which pairs are going to book an extra tournament for themselves, and why wouldn't they do it now that they've been in quarantine here in Bangkok? They might as well play an extra tournament now that they're here. So that concludes this little roundup of the World Tour standings and how the recent withdrawals have impacted the different pairs and players' chances of qualifying for the World Tour finals. If you've enjoyed it, then please give us a like and even subscribe to the channel. Write a comment below. Anyway, it's going to be really, really good to get badminton going again and watch some top badminton 3 weeks in a row here in Thailand.